Read the disclaimer before reading the story. Everyone, welcome back to another Taekook FF. I hope you will love it. 10 years ago, Taehyung, his father yelled from main hall of the mansion. Taehyung, a 14-year-old boy, hurriedly downstairs. By the tone of his father's voice, he knew he was angry. At the bottom of his grand staircase, his father stood tall, breathing hard and red in the face. They could feel the anger radiating off of him. He only heard him read between a wall, never has to seen it with his own eyes. What the freak is this note? Where is your mother? Mr. Kim, his father spat. He turned towards his son. Taehyung finally saw the note in his hand, presumably from his mother. Taehyung was scared to speak to his father. He was frozen in the spot. He should have run back to his room and locked his door. He should have lied next. Mom didn't tell me where she was going, Taehyung said quietly. This wasn't the case. Mr. Kim marched over to his son and grabbed his natural, pet long brown hair. You stupid witch. Just like your mother, too, probably a woe as well. While speaking, he was dragging Taehyung by his hair. Dad, please stop. This really hurts. He groaned in pain. It felt like every strand of his hair was being ripped out of his scalp. Taehyung was trying to catch up to minimize the pain, but his father was too fast. Don't scream, you wish, he said quietly but not calmly. He was dragging Taehyung to his room and he threw him in. By the time Tae lifted his head up, his father locked the door behind him. He cried and collapsed back down. Mr. Kim yelled back again, "You will not leave this room until I tell you." He couldn't help but let the tears fall down his face. Why did his mother leave? How could they just let her leave? After 15 minutes, Taehyung lifted his body off the floor and dragged it to his bed, where he cried more. This is first time his father hurt him, and it wouldn't be last. Kim Taehyung looked at himself in the mirror. He wished he saw a healthy man with silky brown hair and warm, long lashes. Eyes. Instant, he saw a sickly, thin boy with dried out hair and dull eyes. However, he can't help but smile. He shouldn't be smiling since it was his father's funeral, but Taehyung feels free. The hurt is over. He mourned the death of his father the day his father died, which was the first day he heard Taehyung. His father was an important businessman who needed to keep the appearance of his family clean. This didn't stop the physical, emotional, and mental hurt. Mr. Kim would call him away no matter what. If they ate in front of him, he would call him fat. If they came home from school late, which was all the time, he would call him a hoe. If they cried when he hit him, he would call Taehyung a freak. The insults filled his mind for 10 years. The words and words less, the physical hurt and the strategic and harsh in places everywhere an average person couldn't view. The only thing that kept Taehyung sane was school. There he joined the drama club after years of dancing and singing at home with his mother. If it was the only thing that would make Taehyung feel as if his mother still lived with him. Taehyung's mother loved theatre, so Taehyung fell in love with the theatre too. He had many good friends as well through the drama club, however, never close enough to invite them over, never close enough to feel safe to tell them about the hurt. His father worked all day to return home with a nasty remark on his son in between week-long business trips for foreign countries where he would party. He would come home drunk and with foreign women. The women soon leave after Mr. Kim dumped them. Taehyung found peace in those weeks alone. He found freedom to eat, sing out loud, stay away from home as late as he wanted to, because once his father came home there would be no such thing. They had to be home at 4, no later, and there had to be absolutely no noise whatsoever. Taehyung hoped for college. He would be able to go far away, preferable New York City, but his father threw away all his applications that went through the mail. Thankfully, he applied for a local college that he turned in by hand. Taehyung was accepted and majored in theatre. He still lived at home during college, which was still a nightmare. Finally, at the age of 24, his father died. It was a murder and police still don't know who it was, but as an important businessman, he had many enemies. Kim Tae-hyung was dressed for his father's funeral. It was a simple long-sleeve black dress, black tights, and black kitten heels. His hair was tied in a bun and he had light makeup on. Taehyung knew his acting skills will be tested today. He had to pretend that he was heartbroken rather than his real emotions. Relief, nobody knew that the famous Mr. Kim hurt his only son. Actually, one person did know. The person was the head maid, Mia, or Mrs. Lee. She was worked in the house since Taehyung was born. Mrs. Lee would often find Taehyung or Tae to his room crying after a beat or an extremely rude remark and held him until Taehyung stopped. Mrs. Lee would do anything to make him as happy as possible. She would cook Taehyung all his favorite foods. When Mr. Kim was away, help the boy study, watch him practice for a new role. Mrs. Lee was the closest thing to a mother after Taehyung's real mother left. Mrs. Lee popped her head into Tae. Honey, it's time to go. The car is here. Tae turned around to face her. Is it wrong that I feel happy that he is dead, Granny? Real tears lined his eyes. They felt guilty about his joy. The maid screamed to the young man, "Oh no, honey, don't feel guilty. He was always an able man. Why do you think your mother left? How do you think I knew about to treat bruises after your mother left? Someone had to fill her space. Unfortunately, it was you. I'm sorry, Thay." She pulled Thay into a tight hug. When released, Mrs. Lee wiped Taehyung's tears away and they walked out together. They entered the car and drove off to the funeral. They wished that the funeral was simple, but it wasn't. It was planned by his current personal assistant and latest 20-year-old girlfriend of his father, Ruby. They knew her from high school. They were never friends since Ruby was 3 years younger than Taehyung. It was actually a sunny day in the normal cloudy Seoul where the Kims lived. They prepared himself for getting the fake tears ready. Stepping out of the car, Taehyung saw Ruby full on the sobbing and screaming over the closed coffins. He was screaming that she will avenge his death and find the killer. They wanted to laugh at the ridiculousness of the scene, but he knew it was the wrong emotion at this scene like this. The priest said kind things about Mr. Kim, but they were false. Only Taehyung and Mrs. Lee knew the truth. If Taehyung was speaking about his father, he would go into detail about the pain his words and hands caused to Taehyung. When it was time to place the roses on the cast, Taehyung brought out his fake tears. He wasn't sobbing, but the tears fell fast as he was thinking about all the bad things his father did to him. He placed the roses carefully on the coffin and wished one last time that his father would have loved him. Taehyung was the last to go to the funeral. He had to socialize with businessmen and women and display his graceful sorrow. After almost everyone was gone, Mr. Kim's lawyer and an unknown man came up to him. Hello, Mr. Hon. How can I help you? Taehyung addresses the lawyer but ignored the other man. Hello, Mr. Kim. I have some bad news. I know this isn't the best time since you are murdering your father. However, there is a term in this will regarding Mr. Jeon. Can we discuss this at your house? The lawyer introduced the other man as Mr. Jeon. Taehyung heard his name before from his father. Mr. Jeon was well-aged man with small freckles and grey hair. He was tall, towering over Taehyung's 5'5" height, and his fair skin stretches across his frame. In his prime, he must have been a lady killer. Even now, he was a handsome man, but a gold band on his ring finger showed his status. The car ride back was quiet. No one spoke a word. Mrs. Lee took the original car back, so the three drove back in the last car. Luckily, it was a short ride, and they led the man into the mansion. He led them into a sitting room on the first floor, and Mrs. Lee asked the man if they needed anything. Both replied no. So, Mr. Hon and Mr. Jeon, what is the bad news? They asked emotionless. A skill he had developed many years ago. Mr. Hon said before speaking, Mr. Kim's business is very popular. In his will, he assigned a successor that would be the CEO of Kim Industries. However, the only way that can absorb your father's business is through marriage. Mr. Jeon's son, Jungkook, is the CEO and close to your age, so you will be marrying him. If you don't marry Mr. Jungkook, hundreds of people will lose their jobs and you will face a lawsuit from our firm. On behalf of Mr. Kim, I will leave you with the copy of his will. Hopefully, I will see you at the wedding. The lawyer walked out of the door and Mr. Jeon stayed behind to speak more to Taehyung. At this point, Taehyung couldn't help but let anxiety fill his body. He suddenly stood up, whereas paced back and forth. His fingers grew to his mouth as he started biting down, a nervous habit. He is obviously overcome with his anxiety. Mr. Jian just went and watched the boy. He stood up, tried to comfort Taehyung. He placed a hand on his shoulder. He feels how tense Taehyung's muscles were. Once his hand touched his skin, Taehyung quickly turns his head and sees a look of pity on Mr. Jian's face. His face turned back to natural. I'm sorry, Mr. Jian started. I didn't want this, and I know you didn't want it as well. I looked you up through. I saw you that you are a good actor for your local theater. You may be happy with my son, but you can find happiness in New York. My second oldest son is a manager. He can find a job for you. Taehyung first. Taehyung's heart felt a little lighter. He had little money from jobs in local theaters. He planned on moving to New York City anyways. Now with a connection he could actually make it big. It was a great opportunity. However, at a cost of Taehyung has to marry a stranger. Taehyung never dated a man in his life. His life was closely controlled by his father. He was lucky he even got to leave the house for the school and work. He would often kiss men in plays and musicals, but this is the only intimate Taehyung has ever been. I don't not want any wedding. I don't want to be in front of people when it is fake. Taehyung finally voiced out, of course, whatever you want. You are a part of family now, Mr. Jian said gently. I know this is hard to say, but I know what your father did. I know that he hurt you, son. Taehyung's eyes widened and he started to get up and walk away. Mr. Jian wanted to finish his statement, grabbing his waist. This is what when Taehyung's anxiety got worse. He was hoping to forget it all. Instead of Mr. Jian, they saw his disgusting father. He struggled to free himself. He saw the man's mouth moved, but all he heard were his father's insult. He knew that the man wasn't his father, but he couldn't stop his mind but going to dark places. Mr. Jian tried to calm the panicking boy, but the only way for him to make Thay calm is to let go of his hand. Mr. Jian let go and Thay ran to the almost ready to leave. He looked around, ready to attack if needed to be. Mr. Jian carefully approached the boy, seeing that he is not quite himself. He continued to speak. We were close friends, and when I was in graduate school and he was still in college, he met your mother, and I was ready. And I was already with my wife. One day I catch him hitting your mother and calling her the worst names. I confronted him. He attacked and threatened me. I went to the police for domestic hurt, but he covered it well. He must have threatened your mother as well. I had to get away from him. I was afraid for my safety of my family and myself. Your father was a truly evil man. I'm so sorry, Taehyung. Taehyung got up at him through panicked eyes. Taehyung was able to speak out harshly. If you knew about me, why didn't you save me? Tae got up and hurriedly went back to his room. Mr. Jian stayed back, knowing that running after Tae would be pointless. The truth was, he never knew Taehyung existed until the lark connected him about contacted him about Taehyung's father's will. After his death, Mr. Jeon was happy to see the young Taehyung but guessed that Mr. Kim treated Taehyung like his wife. In a way, Mr. Jeon was also happy to take the boy away. He would be good for his spoiled son, Jungkook. A middle-aged woman knocked at the door and peeped her head in. Mr. Jeon recognized her from before and called her name as Mrs. Lee. Can I get you anything, sir? Do you mind if I stay here? Taehyung has to move back to New York with me, so I prefer to stay and get to know about him a bit. Mrs. Lee was surprised. She thought the man was very kind and wondered how he could have been friends with the terrible man like Mr. Kim. The maid agreed and led him to a guest room. In his room, Mr. Jian called his son Jungkook about the news. So everyone, see you in the next episode. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye bye.